Thank you and good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. I don't have any slides. If there would be a slide up there, that would be a single hammer, and I'll tell you why. We see what we wish to see. As the son of two learned child psychologists, I've been spoon-fed with the workings of the human mind. Through a process of cognitive dissonance, we unconsciously make our perception of reality fit our existing beliefs and preconceived ideas. We deliberately narrow our horizon to what we know and often to simplified solutions to the problems and complex situations that we face in everyday life. We see what we wish to see. Another way of saying it, if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Many experiments have demonstrated this effect of willful blindness, and in her book with that title, Margaret Heffernan warns how modern managers need to constantly fight this urge in order to stay ahead of the curve in fast-changing technology sectors. And sometimes I feel that the debates we have in telecom regulation are similarly simplified and blind to what goes on in the real world as the digital ecosystem changes rapidly and fundamentally around us. We're witnessing tectonic shifts that go way beyond the linear effects of globalization and product innovation. The new worldwide powerhouses in personal communications, e-commerce, advertising, film and music distribution will alter value chains of the entire sectors of the economy. The over-the-top disruptors successfully found ways to exploit network effects around the world, free from physical networks, asset-light, free from local regulation and taxes as they operate in cyberspace. You can only look at it in awe and admiration. But in Europe, we cannot be naive and think we'll remain isolated from these winds of change. We'll need businesses of scale and scope, abandon old sector-specific rules, eliminate fragmentation, create incentives to invest and to innovate, and have true level playing fields between the old and the new. The new telecom code, as proposed by the European Union Commission, tries to find the right balance. It will not solve everything, but at least it moves in the right direction, in my view. The problem is now in the contradicting amendments proposed by the European Parliament and the Council, some of which seem to reflect the debate of the early 1990s. Already 18 years ago, when I joined the cable industry for the first time, in 1992, the hottest debate of the time was that of, 1990. The hottest debate of the time was that of regulating wholesale access. At that time, it was indeed the only way to create value for society, forcing incumbent telecom operators to allow innovative resellers on their monopoly networks. And it worked to some extent. Prices came down, service quality improved, and very few resellers, however, actually climbed the ladder of investment to build networks of their own. Some regulators tried to apply the same rules to young emerging builders of cable infrastructure, but the European Commission rightly did not want to take away incentives to invest in those new early networks. The Dutch pressure was the most persistent. Twice, and I had the honor of being part of those processes, twice Dutch cable access regulation was submitted for approval by the European Commission in Article 7 procedures. Twice the European Commission blocked it. Finally, the Dutch managed to get a third attempt approved in 2011, only to find it eliminated by the Dutch Appeals Court later on. The Belgians had more luck. They fabricated a market definition for Flemish language television in a very narrow market definition and a remedy that required a resale of television and wholesale broadband access. But that's where it stayed. It's no coincidence that both of these countries see the regulation of networks as the best way to deal with the enormous complexity of the new digital ecosystem. If you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. If you're a regulator, everything looks like a network that needs to be regulated. That's why the hammer. Instead, sector-specific telecommunications rules should be replaced, be abolished, as far as I'm concerned. and as soon as possible replaced by generic competition rules that apply to the economy as a whole. The sector of telecommunications no longer exists. It's been absorbed in a worldwide digital ecosystem. We are all cyberspace now. The world moved on. Customers have become technology agnostic, seamlessly switching between fixed and mobile broadband. For millennials, fixed telephony is something of the past. Television is what you see on Netflix. Personal communications goes through WhatsApp, Instagram, Snapchat, and not through phone connections. In the giga world, the further evolution of advanced applications and customer experiences goes hand in hand with both fixed and mobile network investments. In my view, regulators all over the world have to fight their traditional reflexes and Heffernan's willful blindness. In my view, the Commission is actually one of the few regulators in the world to try and keep an open mind to all those developments, and it diligently applies general principles of competition law, data protection, taxation to all operators in the digital ecosystem. And in absence, frankly, of new directions from other such agencies, at this moment, the European Commission is effectively becoming a world regulator. Many national regulators and governments in Europe, however, still find it difficult to cast away these traditional reflexes. The urge to regulate access on networks is one of those reflexes. And it translates now in amendments to apply symmetric access regulation without proper market analysis, or to create a new definition of joint dominance only for telecom operators and not for any other industry. That is a 1990s solution to the complexity of a 21st century digital ecosystem. The time that society was going to create value with the reselling of regulated access to networks is long gone. New value creation takes place elsewhere in customer experience, advanced user interfaces, advanced advertising, data mining, personalization, and yes, in further network investments. We should have the courage to open our eyes and see more than what we wish to see. Thank you.